had lunch with two young up-and-coming senators, John Kennedy and Lyndon Johnson, and ran into the new vice president, Richard Nixon. Bess had tea with Woodrow Wilson's widow. In New York, the couple took in the most popular shows on Broadway, and Harry appeared, albeit quite by accident, on a new television program called The Today Show. It was a long, strange trip, and after nearly 8 hard years in the White House, Harry Truman loved every minute of it. As one newspaper put it, he was carefree as a schoolboy in summer. It would stand out as one of the most delightful and memorable experiences in his long and exceedingly eventful life. It was also an episode unique in the annals of the American presidency, and it helped shape the modern ex-presidency, which has become an institution in its own right. Today, ex-presidents get retirement packages that can be worth more than $1 million a year. When Harry Truman left the White House in 1953, his only income was a small Army pension. He had no government-provided office space, staff, or security detail. Shortly before leaving office, he'd had to take out a loan from a Washington bank to help make ends meet. One of the reasons he and Bess drove themselves halfway across the country and back was that they couldn't afford a more extravagant trip. Harry and Bess Truman's road trip also marked the end of an era. Never again would a former president and first lady mingle so casually with their fellow citizens. The story of their trip, then, is the story of life in America in 1953, a time of unbridled optimism and unmitigated Cold War fear. It is also the story of the monumental changes that have occurred since then. Between fall 2006 and summer 2008, I retraced the Trumans' trip in stages, sometimes alone, sometimes with my wife, Allison. I drove where the Trumans drove, ate where they ate, and slept where they slept. I saw the sights they saw and, whenever possible, met with the people they met with. In the following pages, I have included stories from my travels if, in my estimation, they help illuminate my account of the Trumans' trip. I have also included a few stories from my travels simply because I find them interesting or amusing. For this, I beg your indulgence. Like Harry, I crossed paths with ordinary Americans everywhere I went. None but a very few refused my requests for help. Many have become my friends. I have used their real names. For reasons of privacy, however, some surnames are omitted. Also, like Harry, my travels took me to the upper reaches of society. I stayed in some of the country's most exclusive hotels. I met a former president of the United States. I even made my own appearance on the Today Show. Most important, by retracing his trip with Bess, I discovered a Harry Truman not often found in the pages of history books. A Harry Truman who drove too fast. A Harry Truman who was a pretty good tipper. A Harry Truman who loved fruit. I mean, he really loved fruit. And Bess might have loved it even more. But enough with the preface already. Let's hit the road with Harry and Bess. 1. Washington, D.C., Inauguration Day, 1953. On January 20th, 1953, his last day in the White House, Harry Truman awoke at 5:30 as usual. He skipped his customary morning walk and, after breakfast, attended to the final business of his presidency. His last official act was the signing of a letter to James A. Campbell, the president of the American Federation of Government Employees, on the occasion of the 70th anniversary of the Federal Civil Service System. The system was instituted after one of Truman's unlucky predecessors, James Garfield, was assassinated by Charles Guiteau, the proverbial disappointed office seeker. In the letter, Truman decried what he called recent reckless attacks on civil servants, referring to Republican charges that the federal bureaucracy was infested with communists. At 8:45, the president began saying goodbye to the White House staff, bounding from room to room.